Hello, welcome to my channel again. It's nice to see you. If this is the first time you're visiting me, thank you for always trusting me. If you're a returning subscriber, um, I'm more than happy to welcome you back to my channel. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. As a way of introduction, I am John Bosco, but my friends do call me JB, so please do go ahead and call me JB if that is okay. Today, we'll be talking about a very important topic in Scrum. A lot of people have been reaching out to me, um, asking about the idea of scope creep, or what you could also call change requirements in Scrum, whether it is a good thing or it is a bad thing, or how to help to curtail or manage it. So today, I thought we could use this opportunity to reorient ourselves, educate ourselves, we'll discuss, have some conversation about the idea of scope creep in Scrum. If you don't know what a scope creep is, don't worry. I'm going to walk you through on what it is and what you could access, or even as a product owner, how you can work masters in order to help manage scope creep. So the first thing we could do is to start defining what the idea of scope creep is, and then we can now dive into the part of the conversation. According to Project Management Institute, which is an institution where you can do your certification in terms of project management, it has something to say about scope creep. It says scope creep is having, quotes, additional features or functions of a new product, requirements or work that is not authorized, that is beyond the agreed upon scope, end quotes. What does that really mean? When team members are working on a particular project or doing a sprint, some kind of features or functionalities are added during the sprint. In other words, those features were not agreed upon during the sprint planning, right? During the sprint planning, the team has already agreed some kind of commitments on the issues that they're going to work on. It could be user stories, it could be spike, it could be enhancements, it could be whatever the team has agreed to work on. Now, anything coming in or anything going outside, right, within that time box is considered to be, and you could also call it kitchen sink syndrome or requirement creep. So whichever one it is, it all ties towards the idea of changing requirements. It could also, I mean, the idea is, or the bad thing about scope is it could sink the effort of the team. It could make it so invincible because when things are moved in and out, it could make it in such a way that team could either get overwhelmed or the velocity could increase, or it could even go below velocity. So it's not a good, I mean, we haven't gotten to the point where we look at it if it's a good thing or not a good thing yet. But the point is, what image does the scope creep portray to the Scrum team? Okay, so how does this scope creep really occur? How does it happen? Does it just come from the thin air? Or does it just happen accidentally? Or does it just happen intentionally? Well, it does happen in a number of ways, but the two major ways that it does happen, one is what is added that was not part of the original sprints. Again, some team members are much more concerned about the sprints. Some team members are much more concerned about release. Whichever one it is, so as far as work that is added to the sprint or to the release is not part of the earlier conversation, then that is when you begin to see, oh, scope creep is really, really creeping. When you have more functionalities added to this project without considering budget, time, and resource, right? It kind of gets the project really overrated, or it gets things out of box. Three things to consider when in terms of project management. You talk about the budget, you talk about the time, you talk about the resource. The resource in terms of the human resource, people that you are going to employ or people that are going to work on those within the time box, or even the tools you're going to use, because some of these tools you have to subscribe to them in order to use them, right? For example, Jira or ZenHub or even Azure DevOps or any of those things that might require financing or any of those things that might require some kind of effort in order to get it done. So you need to consider those in when having those scope creep in a project. If we do understand what scope creep is, how it does happen, now what is the rationale of it happening? What is the reason of it happening within a project? Well, based on my research and based on my experience, I think there are a number of reasons why it does occur. The first is lack of clarity on the original specification documents, right? Before the start of a project, there is what is called the statement of work or project scope. So if these original documents, the team members do not have like much more understanding, detailed understanding on that document, that it could lead to that change in requirement as the project progresses. Now, every project has project sponsors. It could be internal project sponsors, it could be external project sponsors. Whichever one it is, if those people who are sponsoring the project are not involved, by involvement, we need their input, we need communication. If they're not really involved within the time box of that project, it could lead to a number of change in between, right? So that is why Scrum recommends during the sprint review, those project sponsors could be invited. They are encouraged to attend the ceremony so that it will help us to capture feedback and know when we are really on getting off rail in such a way that the team members can know how to factor those changes as it comes. We understand that the market is always changing, right? Change is, in fact, change is, it is as prevalent, is as important, or it is so obvious in this contemporary period. All right, so how do we contain change? Well, because of the change in because of the change in the market, so it could affect to the priorities as the team works during the sprints. So the change in market condition is one of those reasons why scope creep could occur. User feedback. As the team continue to ship potentially increment, or as the team releases, so also they capture feedback. And as those feedback do come, the team find it as a prerogative to be able to key in those feedback moving forward. So because of this kind of factor, it could also influence how much or to the extent that scope creep could happen in a project. Some kind of dependencies could also happen. One thing is dependent in the other. So as the sprint progresses, we could see some dependencies, and in trying to mitigate those dependencies, the scope creep could also occur. And the last but not the least of the reasons behind this either scope creep is the length of the project. The longer the length of the project, the more the danger or the risk of having scope creep. How do you identify scope creep? In my own experience and based on research, there are 4 ways you could also identify scope creep. Visualize work. If we have to go back a little bit on this to the Scrum guide, one of the 3 pillars of Scrum says visibility or transparency. Right? Whatever the team is working on should be made transparent so that everybody can really, really visualize and see if there is any kind of things that the team is bringing on to the project or to the sprints that were not earlier planned on. There are lots of gadgets. If people who are using the Jira, there are lots of gadgets and widgets that you could also employ that can help you to track or dictate or make obvious where you have scope creep. The first is, one of those is the sprint health gadget, and the other one is the burn down charts. The sprint head gadget could be an added feature in the Jira. So if you are a Scrum Master or you are a potential Scrum Master hoping to get into Scrum, or when you start working as a Scrum Master, you can always ask for the assistance of the Jira administrator to help add that functionality to help you track and to monitor scope creep. Again, the other thing is integrating early. When team members are integrating early and continuously, it will help you as a Scrum Master to know and to manage scope creep. The last but not the least on how to identify scope creep is through what is called Scrum of Scrums. Scrum of Scrums is a kind of a stand-up meeting where different Scrum Master from different teams or a representative of a different team could be able to give an update of what the team is working on. Through that scenario, the other teams or even the department as a whole can really dictate when scope creep is creeping. Now, what are some situations or examples to help us understand this idea of scope creep? I've been able to put together some kind of scenario that could help us to identify or even practicing Scrum Masters or Agile coaches, and even potential Scrum Masters or even managers who are also parts of the team. Well, when you have critical and new product backlog items, PBIs, that is introduced, it could impact the progress of the sprints. So in that situation, you could say that scope creep is creeping. As the team learns on new thing, or as they research on about an item that they're working on, which is called spike, it could also act as a way or one of the ways of scope creeping into the projects. When fails the acceptance test, right, the PO could also reject that item. In other words, there has to be a new item that could be to replace that item has failed project acceptance test. When less capacity than planned, it could also be another scenario that could help to introduce scope creep. When you have too many stakeholders who have different priorities, right? Where we were working on a sprint and it was a 2-week sprint, and the second week, one of the stakeholders, he has to ask one of the developers to work on another priority. That sprint was going on. As a Scrum Master, I mean, I have to be very careful so that I don't step on people's toes, but at the same time, I need to do my job because that was what I was employed to do, tasked to do. So what I needed to do was to follow up on that, and then I met with the stakeholder in question and asked if we could follow the right Scrum process in order to get that done. And the stakeholder was able to understand with me, so he was able to meet with the product owner, and they were able to prioritize that, and we were able to do that for. So when you have too many stakeholders with different priorities, it could also contribute towards that kind of scope creeping. When PO changes priorities during the sprint, or when the PO cancels the sprints, because the PO is empowered to cancel the sprint. So in that situation, if it happens, then it could also contribute towards scope creeping. Now, how do you respond to this scope creep? How do you respond to that? There are lots of ways that you could respond to that in order to manage that scenario as a Scrum Master. And 4 of those ways, I think, that could help to manage using epic burn down and release burn down charts. We have a lot of metrics in Jira or in Azure DevOps. Those metrics could help in order to manage, or in order to contain, in order to this situation. So using epic burn down charts and chat or release burn down chat could also go a long way in helping to identify and share your concerns, whoever contributes or whoever should be aware of the situation. The team could also rely on what is called what if scenario planning. Planning is kind of an information specific speculation to handle a given situation, right? So it kind of gives us an idea. It's an informal way to speculate on how we could handle something if this happens. If this happens, what could we do? When new minimal viable products, which is called MVP, is agreed upon, team could also adjust mindfully. I mean, we already understand that by going back to the 12 Agile and to the 4 Agile manifesto that talks about change, responding to change, right? Team is encouraged to respond to change because change is bound to happen no matter what, no matter at what stage it does happen. So we should always adjust mindfully. The last but not the least is to reorder backlog, stories, epics, and initiative to reflect change. So as those changes or as those change do occur, so we should always reorder and reprioritize as they come across. All right, so now the big question is scope creep a good thing in Scrum? Well, it has the good side, it has the bad side, and it has the ugly side, right? So I can only give my own recommendation. And what is my recommendation? It is to add features. I mean, I would say to add features, ideas, and resources isn't a bad thing. Yes, it's not a bad thing, I would say, because those changes are bound to happen. In fact, we are, in this, as far as the contemporary period is concerned, and also depending on the nature of the projects, right, those changes could happen. But we should know when to draw the line between quotes, what is needed to have a successful project, and when you are disregarding the project scope, because every project do have a scope. Draw the line when it is necessary, right? We have to go through some kind of question check marks. Is this necessary to add to these sprints? Is this necessary to go into this release? What is the risk, potential risk involved? Into those checklists, right? It's going to help us to contend either for us to proceed or either to withdraw and also to reprioritize. So that would be my recommendation, right? All right, so we're going to stop here for today. I would like to hear your thoughts. I would like to hear your feedback about today's episode or contents. Please go to the comment section. Let me share your thoughts or what you think about today's content. It is a very contentious idea or information about scope creep. Some people think scope creep is a good thing to do. Some people think it is absolutely not. Right. So I've shared with you what my knowledge is based on knowledge research and also based on experience. But I would like to hear what your thoughts are on this scope creep. As a Scrum Master, practicing Scrum Master, you must have encountered scope creep. Or even if you are, vying to become a Scrum Master, as a potential Scrum Master, you might not, you must not have heard about scope creep. But sometimes if you are going into Scrum, you might be in an interview situation where your employer, what is your idea or what is your knowledge about scope creep? Today's content may be very much important for you. So don't say it's not, it doesn't really relate to you. Believe me, it could. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Your question, please put them in the comment section. If you are looking for a place to get trained to become a Scrum Master, I would encourage you to visit www.ineedscrummaster.com, or you can email me at info@ineedscrummaster.com, and we can always get you into the class. All right. Again, if you are a returning subscriber, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. If this is the first coming to my channel, thank you so much. Congratulations for coming across. That means we can Scrum together. Don't fail to subscribe. Don't fail to like. Don't fail to share. And together, we could Scrum together. Thank you for visiting me today, and I hope you have a lovely and wonderful day ahead. Bye for now.